Welcome back to the Continuum. Today, we're going to talk about Sultan Ibrahim the First, and this is a continuation on our leaders who were mentally unstable and how they hurt their nations by being so mentally unstable. This is in correlation with Donald Trump and his mental stability completely destroying before our eyes. Same with Vladimir Putin. But this is the Continuum. To understand Sultan Ibrahim the First, one must begin not with his reign, but with his prison. The cage, was no ordinary chamber. It was a gilded prison inside a palace, designed to confine princes. The Ottomans had learned the dangers of leaving rival heirs free. Civil wars between brothers had torn the empire apart before, but this solution was hardly better. The cage bred paranoia, depression, and madness. We have first-hand accounts from palace scribes who describe the keys as suffocating. Princes lived in fear, with little education, forbidden from hunting, riding, or even seeing the outside world. Many fell into despair. Some became addicted to opium or drink, while others withdrew into silence. Ibrahim, who was born in 1615, was the son of Sultan Ahmed I and Qasim Sultan. At just 8 years old, he watched his father die. At 11, his brother, Murad IV, took the throne. Murad was merciless. He executed his own brothers. He strangled advisors for disobedience. He prowled the streets of Istanbul at night in disguise, ordering immediate execution of drunkards and gamblers. Ibrahim knew what a wrong word, a wrong glance, might end his life. But Murad lay dying in 1640. Ibrahim trembled with terror. He had survived the cage longer than most, but he refused to believe he could be sultan. Chroniclers record that when he was told the throne was his, Ibrahim shouted, "This is a trick! Murad had sent you to strangle me." To his mother, Kosum, personally swearing by the Quran that Murad was dead to coax him out. The trembling prince stepped into the light. The empire had a new ruler, one already broken by fear. At Ibrahim's side was his mother, Kosum Sultan. Kosum was no ordinary woman. Born in Greece, captured as a child, she was brought into the Ottoman harem and caught the eye of Sultan Ahmed I. She rose not only as his consort, but as his political partner. By 1630s, she was the most powerful woman in the empire, known as Valid Sultan, the Queen Mother. Ministers deferred to her. Janissaries sought her blessing. She had overseen the reign of Murad IV, and now she would guide Ibrahim. Kosum was problematic. She knew Ibrahim was unstable. She surrounded him with advisors, tried to restrain his worst impulses, and often signed decrees herself. For a time, she kept the empire steady, but tension grew between mother and son. Ibrahim resented her control. He feared she wanted to depose him in favor of another prince. At times, he banished her from court, only begging her to return when crisis mounted. The empire became a stage where a mother's wisdom clashed with a son's paranoia. Freed from the cage, Ibrahim sought only pleasure. The harem became his obsession. Unlike his predecessors, who balanced governance with indulgence, Ibrahim was consumed. Chroniclers described him as demanding women of every race and size. He sent envoys across the empire to find the heaviest woman alive, eventually receiving a concubine known as Sekeprati, sugar piece, said to weigh over 300 pounds. He earned the nickname Deli Ibrahim, Ibrahim the Mad, and the Fur Sultan, for his habit of covering women in stable furs during his exercises. Some of those stories may have been exaggerated by hostile chroniclers, but this is no doubt that Ibrahim's reign was marked by obsession with the harem. He fathered numerous children but neglected the empire. Paranormal feasted. He suspected his concubines of infidelity and, in one infamous episode, ordered all 280 women of the harem drowned in the Bosporus. Only a handful survived. His cruelty extended beyond the harem. Viziers were executed at a whim. Capable ministers were dismissed in favor of those who flattered, and all the while the treasury emptied. The Ottoman treasury had been carefully rebuilt under Murad IV, who enforced strict discipline and increased revenue through conquest. But Ibrahim squandered it in years. He spent fortune on jeweled thrones, gold carriages, and exotic animals lions, tigers, even elephants. He commissioned palaces lined with silk, ordered gifts of gems to mistresses, and demanded new wardrobes of stable fur each year. Contemporary records show that inflation doubled during his reign. Bread prices soared, soldiers went unpaid, the treasury faced bankruptcy. The people of Istanbul, once loyal to the Sultan, began to whisper of rebellion. Even as the empire bled wealth, Ibrahim launched a new war. In 1645, he declared war on Venice for control of Crete, the last Venetian stronghold in the Aegean. At first, victory seemed swift. Ottoman forces captured Gina, but the campaign soon bogged down. The Venetian navy blockaded the Dardanelles. The war dragged on for 24 years, far beyond Ibrahim's lifetime. The Cretan War became one of the longest and most expensive wars in Ottoman history. It drained the treasury, cost tens of thousands of lives, and achieved little during Ibrahim's reign. As soldiers suffocated, Ibrahim indulged in feasts, banquets, and harem pleasures. The contrast was stark and dangerous. By 1647, unrest had reached a breaking point. Janissaries mutinied over unpaid wages. Religious leaders denounced Ibrahim's cruelty and waste. In 1648, a coalition formed: the Janissaries, Islamic scholars, and even Kosum Sultan herself. They declared Ibrahim unfit to rule. The Janissaries stormed the palace. Ibrahim was seized, dragged screaming to the cage where he had once languished as a boy. For 10 days he raged and wept, clutching his young son, Mehmed, warning him that the executioners would come for him too. On August 18th, 1648, the bowstring was drawn. Sultan Ibrahim I was strangled in the same place where he had been born. He was 32 years old. His reign had lasted just 8 years. The empire did not collapse with Ibrahim. His son, Mehmet IV, took the throne. Kosum Sultan once again became regent, guiding the empire through the turbulence. But the damage was lasting. The Cretan War dragged on, draining resources. The treasury remained unstable. Confidence in the Sultan's authority had been shaken. Ibrahim's reign is remembered as a cautionary tale. The Ottoman system of succession, the cage, the reliance on mothers and viziers. They produced rulers unprepared for power. His madness was not only his own, but a product of an empire's flawed structure. Today, Ibrahim I is remembered as Deli Ibrahim, Ibrahim the Mad. But behind the madness lies a deep tragedy. A child in prison, a man broken by fear, a ruler consumed by indulgence. His life was a cycle: born in confinement, freed to rule, destroyed by his own instability. The empire survived him, but weaker, scarred, haunted by the memory of a sultan whose madness became the empire's burden. So you may be asking, why did I tell you the story of Ibrahim? Well, there's a few things here. The main one I wanted to talk about was the fact that Ibrahim was driven mad, and when he was mad, he looked into indulgences to help alleviate that, whether it be with women, that we see Trump, who has a life where he talks about how he could get any woman, or Ibrahim, the paranoia, who he surrounded himself with, always thinking that someone was after him. We see that Ibrahim and his mother were very close. And even though we can't draw too many parallels with modern day nation rulers, especially Trump and Putin, we see that they always have someone who can come in and save them. But in the end, they are the ones to betray them. Who is that going to be? Well, if history has anything to say about it, we'll just have to wait and see. But just like Ibrahim, indulgences, all these wars, They bankrupted his empire, causing massive inflation, just like a massive ballroom, just like gold everywhere, just like tariffs, just to stoke someone's pride. This has been the Continuum. Thank you.